You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I have to start with Astros Rays, otherwise known as the Manuel Margot game. He dominated this game as much as any one individual player can. The big 3-run homer in the first, and then that epic catch in the second. He's fighting the sun, he leaps up, he makes the catch, and then he goes falling into the stands. It was unbelievable. It's one of the greatest catches you'll ever see. You want to talk about Manny being Manny? That was Manny being Manny. I mean, it's kind of funny, this guy only had one home run the whole year. 11 RBIs the whole year. And then next thing you know, he hits a big 3-run home run and follows it up with one of the most incredible catches you'll ever see. Baseball is crazy like that. Sometimes you can have a player just take over the game by himself. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a pitcher. That's why you gotta love this sport. And another reason why you have to love it, a player as dominant as Jose Altuve, he is dominant, no question about it, can make one play in the field, and that's all anyone's going to talk about. If he throws out Choi, Margot never hits that 3-run homer. He may have still hit a home run, but it would have been a solo shot, and the game is completely different. It could have been 2-2. It goes into extras. God only knows what happens. But instead, Jose Altuve, someone who won a Gold Glove in 2015, commits a boneheaded error, and it leads to the Margot home run. Way to waste a great Lance McCullers performance. I mean, McCullers pitched 7 innings of great baseball. He only gave up 4 hits. He had 11 strikeouts. Only 1 earned run, the Zunino home run. But at the end of the day, the seminal reason that the Astros didn't win this game was their inability to get the big hit. They had plenty of opportunities to put runs on the board. Runners on the corners, 1 out in the first. 2 straight outs. Runners on second and third, 2 outs. Manuel Margot makes the fantastic catch on George Springer. Runner on second, 2 outs. Nope. Bases loaded, nobody out. In the top of the 9th, Nick Anderson is reeling. George Springer grounds into a double play. The Astros get bases loaded again, and Alex Bregman flies out to Kevin Kiermaier to end the game. Yes, Margot dominated. Yes, Altuve made a boneheaded error, and I'm sure he didn't get a lot of sleep last night. But at the end of the day, the Astros had their opportunities to score. They just couldn't convert on them. We talk about clutch pitching being important in the playoffs. clutch hitting is just as important, if not more important. Moving on now to Braves-Dodgers. And this game had to make you sick as a Dodgers fan. My uncle's a Dodgers fan. If I know him, he probably didn't stay up to watch the game. He gets to bed really early. But if he had stayed up to watch it, he would have had a tough time watching this. Another game where the bullpen implodes. Blake Trinan, the guy who I said can come in and replace Kenley Jansen as closer, promptly gives up the game in the ninth. Literally the first batter he faced, Austin Riley, out of the park. They wasted another really good performance from Walker Buehler. I understand that Buehler didn't have his best stuff, wasn't locating well. I mean, he walked 5 guys in 5 innings. That is not Walker Buehler. But this was another situation where the Dodgers bullpen implodes. You give up 4 runs in the top of the ninth? Dave Roberts had to be sick. And this wasn't on Roberts. I saw some people getting on Roberts. No, this was Blake Trinan not getting the job done. And now the Dodgers are in trouble. No Jansen, no Trinan. What are they going to do at closer? Gratterall? May? I don't know. This is their Achilles heel, make no question about it. I thought the bullpen would be okay. Jansen couldn't get the job done, but you know what? I thought they had the depth to survive. I was wrong. Trinan imploded. McGee wasn't much better. The Dodgers are in trouble here. Roberts may have to go back to Jansen at this point. Who else do you have? But I'll tell you, while the Dodgers pitching is the story of this game, their hitting shouldn't be left out of the conversation. They only had 4 hits. Everyone in the lineup struck out at least once, with the exception of A.J. Pollock. I mean, give the Braves credit. Max Fried continued his great pitching. Freddie Freeman with the big home run in the first. And the Braves had to overcome a pretty big injury. Adam Duvall pulled his oblique. Swinging at a pitch, he had to leave the game. Christian Pache, a rookie, has to come in and play left field. And I gotta say, he played well. 0 for 1, but he had 2 walks. I'll take that. For whatever it's worth, Duvall is now out for the rest of the postseason. He will be replaced by Johan Camargo. That's a big loss for the Braves. Duvall gave them a really good power bat in the bottom half of their lineup. They have Freeman and Ozuna at the top, Duvall at the bottom. That was scary. Ronald Acuna too at the top. The Braves now lost that balance, but Pache will be fine. I think he'll be okay. Not great, not terrible. Camargo gives them a switch hitter off the bench. He's nothing incredibly special. This is a big loss for the Braves, but I don't think it's going to be the end of the world for him. I think Pache will be able to hold his own. And how great was it to see the fans show up for this game. I understand that it wasn't the Who Stampede. Globe Life Field only had like 11,000 people in it. I think that was the max. But it was still great to see fans there. I forgot what they looked like. And Braves fans should be used to not having a full house for their playoff games because their fans don't sell out playoff games on a good day. It's actually true. It's really pathetic. But look, this was a great win for the Braves. They had to win the Fried start. Yes, Ian Anderson had a good game 2 against the Marlins. And Kyle Wright had a good game 3 against the Marlins. But, look, Fried is their guy. Fried's their ace. If they didn't win that start, they were in trouble. They won it. They exploited the Dodgers bullpen. And I think you have to look at this series really differently. If Trinan can't get the job done, they may have to go back to Jansen. And I don't think anyone really wants that. This was a really tough loss for the Dodgers. They've got to find an answer for that bullpen quickly. I don't know if they're going to be able to or not. That is going to be really, really tough. Speaking of Ian Anderson, he is going to get the start today for the Braves. I like him a lot. Doesn't seem to shy away from the bright lights. I like that a lot. He tends to attack hitters vertically. And what I mean by that is, he doesn't attack hitters inside, and he doesn't try to get them lunging across the zone. He'll try to get hitters out with a four-seamer up high. I've even seen him throw a sinker up high, or a changeup or a curve low in the zone. But this kid has that clutch gene. I feel like he's a guy who we're going to be talking about for a while as a proven playoff performer. The same way that we talk about Bumgarner or Tanaka or someone like that. Maybe not as much Tanaka after what he did this year, but certainly in that Bumgarner mold. Not as good as Bumgarner, but in that same vein. The future is very bright for Ian Anderson. As if things couldn't get any worse for the Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw was supposed to start tonight. He was scratched because of back spasms, and now Tony Gonsolin will get the start. Now, Gonsolin's a good pitcher. Went 2-2 this year with a 2.31 ERA. Locates his fastball well. And he has off-speed stuff that's lethal when it's moving. It locks up lefties and it gets righties to chase. He also has a split finger that can fall through the zone. He's not a bad pitcher, but he's not Kershaw. When it rains, it pours. This just plays into the narrative that Kershaw isn't a guy you can count on in the postseason. He needs to be getting this start. If the Dodgers lose tonight, they're not going to come back from 2-0 down. This isn't 1996. This is a terrible look for Kershaw. Make no mistake about it. Look, I believe that he's hurt. I'm not saying he's making it up, but he's got to try to power through it. He's the ace. You don't want Tony Gonsolin getting this start over Clayton Kershaw. Come on, that's ridiculous. Good luck, Uncle Todd. Good luck, all Dodgers fans. You're going to need it tonight. Now it's time to preview Rays Astros. Ryan Yarbrough is getting the start for the Rays. He's usually used as the guy who comes in after the opener. It's nice to see him get a start. He's a very interesting pitcher. Doesn't throw a fastball. He throws a cutter, a changeup, a sinker, and a little bit of a curve. No true four-seamer. He has a changeup that runs in on lefties, a cutter that can run in on righties. Sometimes he has a tendency to hang his sinker. If he doesn't get a lot of movement on it, it's just a gopher. And you can hit it out. But if that sinker's moving, or if you're not expecting it, you look foolish for taking it. I like Yarborough. I think he should be used as a traditional starter, not the guy who comes in after the opener. Good God Almighty, do I hate it when teams use openers. The Astros are going to counter with Jose Urquidy. Urquidy's a very traditional pitcher. Has 4 pitches, throws them all really well. A fastball that he likes to throw up high. A slider that runs in on lefties. A changeup that locks up righties. And a curveball that can have you going fishing. When those 4 pitches are moving, he's unhittable. And this should go without saying, but I'll say it anyway. If the Astros don't win this game, the series is over. They're not going to pull an 0-4 Red Sox. Moving on now to Chargers-Saints. This is the only football game that I'm going to talk about. It's unfair for me to talk about Bills-Titans. I have no idea what the Titans are going to do after their coronavirus outbreak. It would be unfair for me to preview it. But I can talk about Chargers-Saints. And let me tell you, the Chargers have something special in Justin Herbert. I liked Herbert a lot coming out of Oregon. I thought he was the right decision for the Chargers at 6. I didn't think we'd get this. He's the first rookie ever to throw 4 touchdowns on Monday Night Football. Their rushing game didn't miss much. With the absence of Austin Eckler, Justin Jackson played well, had 15 carries for 71 yards. Joshua Kelly does not look good at all. He only had 11 carries for 29 yards. Mike Williams looked insane, 5 catches for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is a really scary Chargers team for the future. Yeah, they may have some growing pains early. Herbert's going to have to learn how to win. But this guy has what it takes to be the next Phillip Rivers. In fact, he may even wind up being better than Rivers. I could see Herbert winning a Super Bowl. I don't think that's unfair to say right now. He's proven that he's not fazed by the bright lights. He's completed just under 69% of his passes, 9 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. He's throwing for 300 yards a game. Fantastic decision by Tom Telesco to move on from Phillip Rivers so they can take Justin Herbert. That's how you do it. As for the Saints, I feel like this was a little bit of an underwhelming performance for him, even though they got the win. Drew Brees was very, very good, but he wasn't great. Alvin Kamara couldn't get anything going as a running back. As a pass catcher? Yeah. 8 catches for 74 yards. And Emmanuel Sanders, too. They didn't miss Michael Thomas at all. he was suspended for getting into a fight in practice. Good for Sean Payton in laying the hammer down. I mean, Breeze can still get it done, but he's not the Breeze of old. The Saints are going to make the playoffs, and they're going to be a tough out when they get there, but I don't think they're a Super Bowl threat. I wasn't in love with what I saw yesterday from them. But that's not the biggest story of yesterday's game. The biggest story is that because of that game, because Hunter Henry couldn't get one more catch, because Justin Jackson couldn't get one more yard, because the Saints defense couldn't come up with one more stop, I lost my fantasy football matchup by 1/100th of a point. Not a point. Not 1/10 of a point. 1/100th of a point. 2 places to the right of the decimal. You couldn't do that if you tried. I was dying yesterday. If I'm gonna lose, blow me out so I'm not into it. I couldn't get one more yard? That was all I needed! I mean, come on! 1/100th of a point! I'm now 0-5. Man, I should have won that matchup. That killed me. I was dying yesterday. I texted the guy who I was going up against. I was dying. I mean, now I'm faced with a really tough decision. Do I blow things up? Or do I try to have a respectable finish? I don't know. One guy offered me a trade. I'm giving up Todd Gurley, Mike Gesicki, a 6th and a 7th. And I'm getting Kyle Rudolph, J.J. Taylor, a 2nd and a 5th. In terms of players, I'm losing that trade. As of right now, I'm losing that trade. In the future, it makes sense. I didn't pull the trigger on it, though. I just don't like those players. I just can't rationalize that in my head. And if I trade Gurley, I'm left without a true running back. I'll have to start Jackson and, I don't know, Jalen Richard. LaMichael Pirine. I have no idea. I don't think I can do it. I do have a trade lined up for Juju Smith-Schuster, though, that I'm thinking of doing. I just have to really think about it. Moving on now to hockey. And there is a lot to talk about. Because on October 13th, that is normal. I understand that usually the season would just be getting off the ground, but there usually isn't a lot to talk about when a season first gets going. You want to wait for the teams to get going a little bit, and then you can say what's going to happen. But this year is different. There are a lot of transactions to talk about. And please forgive me, but I have to start with the New York Islanders. I said in their off-season preview that they were in cap hell, and they may have to make some tough decisions. Well, Lou Lamoriello made a tough decision. He traded Devon Taves to the Avalanche for 2 second-rounders. And I gotta tell you, I don't mind this trade. As much as it hurts to lose Taves, I like Taves a lot. I think he's going to be a really good defenseman in this league for a long time. The Islanders just don't have any cap room. According to CapFriendly.com, they have just under $9 million in cap space. That sounds like a lot, but they still have to re-sign Barzal, and they still have to re-sign Pulock. Those two guys alone, you're going to have a tough time signing for $9 million. Forget mid-season acquisitions. You always want flexibility for those. Taves is a really good player, but he didn't have a good playoffs. I'd have liked to have seen Boychuk go, but if no team wants him, what are you going to do? If no team wants Leddy, what are you going to do? If you can't entice a team to take Hickey, what are you going to do? It had to be Taves. He was the odd man out. And one other thing this does is open up a full-time spot for Noah Dobson. He's probably going to play next to Scott Mayfield next year on that second defensive pair. Now, I'd be lying to you if I said I was 100% comfortable with that. I understand that Dobson's young. I'm not giving up on him by any stretch. But in the regular season, he didn't impress me. Game 6 against the Lightning, he played well. But again, I'd be lying to you if I said I was 100% confident in him. I understand why Lamoriello did this. It gives the Islanders cap room, and it opens up a spot for Dobson. And it's put up or shut up time for Dobson. Alright? The honeymoon period is over. He has to put it together quickly. Can he? Yes. But again, I'd be lying to you if I said I was 100% confident in him doing that. The Islanders did make a couple minor signings. Let me just go through them really quickly. They signed Corey Schneider and Austin Czarnik. Schneider makes sense as an AHLer, but nothing else. I mean, there is a nightmare scenario here that Ilya Sorokin isn't as ready as we all thought he was. And they're going to give Sorokin some time to marinate before they throw him out into the fire. I don't think that's what happened here, but that is a distinct possibility. Realistically, I think this was for the Sound Tigers. I don't know why Schneider wanted to sign with the Sound Tigers. I know that he has a pre-existing relationship with Lou Lamoriello. But even then, the guy has nothing left to prove. Why does he want to spend all that time on buses? The other scenario is that Semyon Varlamov could be traded. And Sorokin's going to be the starter with Schneider as the backup. I'm not confident in that setup at all. Sorokin's a rookie and Schneider's been garbage the past couple years. I think the most likely scenario is that Schneider's gonna spend a lot of time in Bridgeport. And he'll come up if Varlamov or Sorokin gets hurt. I have no problem with that at all. And Austin Czarnik, it's possible that you could see him with the Islanders to start out the season. They do have an opening at third and fourth line left wing. And Czarnik can fill either role. He's not a physical player, but I have no problem with the Islanders stacking the deck offensively. Last year, Czarnik only played in 8 games for the Flames, but he had 3 points. The year before, 54 games, 18 points. That's pretty good. You can put a guy like that on the third line. I have no problem with that at all. Or even the fourth line. Kiefer Bellows fills the other spot. I have no problem with that at all. The Zarnik move made a ton of sense to me. And if he ends up spending some time in Bridgeport, well, the Sound Tigers just got a lot better. But that's not the big NHL story. The big NHL story is that the Golden Knights finally got their man. It is official. Alex Pietrangelo is going to be a Golden Knight. He signed there for 7 years at $61.6 million. That's $8.8 million a year. The Golden Knights have needed a true number one defenseman for a long time. They found him. Alex Pietrangelo is a great player. Stanley Cup winner. Finished in the top 5 in Norris Trophy voting 3 times. 2-time All-Star. This is a match made in heaven for the Golden Knights. This makes them really scary going forward. If I had to say it right now, I think we're looking at a Flames Golden Knights Western Conference Final. It's a lot of money. There's no question about that. But Pietrangelo's worth it. He was the best defenseman on the market. He's the best defenseman to hit free agency in a really long time. This is a fantastic move for the Golden Knights. There's no other way to say it. This is a great, great move. To facilitate Pietrangelo coming in, Paul Stastny had to be traded, but someone else also had to go. The other shoe has dropped. Nate Schmidt has been traded. And he went to the Canucks for their third rounder in 2022. Schmidt is a really underrated defenseman. He's an offensive defenseman, but he holds his own defensively. He has 3 straight 30-point seasons in Vegas. He turned his career around there. Give George McPhee a ton of credit for picking him from the Capitals. He plays the game the right way, and he'll be a fantastic addition to their top 4. Him, Quinn Hughes, Alexander Edler, and Tyler Myers? That's pretty scary. Jim Benning did a good job with this trade. Having said that, though, the Golden Knights basically traded Nate Schmidt for Alex Pietrangelo and a third-round pick. They made out pretty well, too. That wasn't the only big hockey news. The Montreal Canadiens signed a pretty good player in Tyler Toffoli for 4 years at $17 million. That's $4.25 million a year. And that's a fair price to pay for a really good two-way second liner. Toffoli's a good defensive forward. He doesn't get enough credit for it, but his offensive game is what everyone knows him for. You can count on him to get 40 to 50 points every year, usually. You saw it in the playoffs. The Canadiens struggled to get consistent scoring. They beefed up their defense by trading for Joel Edmondson and then signing him. And they made the big trade for Josh Anderson, and then locking him up, I wasn't crazy about that. But Toffoli makes a ton of sense. Carey Price can't do it all himself. He needs goals in front of him if he's going to win games. And Toffoli can put the puck in the back of the net. You can count on him for 20 goals. This is a great move for the Canadiens. It makes a ton of sense. And I really think that they can surprise some teams next year. Moving on now to the Colorado Avalanche, locking up one of their RFAs in Ryan Graves for 3 years at $9.5 million. And this is a good move for the Avalanche. Graves had a really, really good season for the Avalanche. Tremendously underrated. He led the NHL in plus-minus last year at a plus 40. Really good defensive defenseman. But he can also contribute offensively, too. In 69 games, he had 26 points. In the playoffs, he held his own, 3 points in 15 games. That's not great, but it's not terrible. But he ranked 4th on the team in plus-minus with a plus 9. The Avalanche traded Nikita Zadorov, so they had to lock up Graves. And bringing in Taves just makes their defensive core that much better. Think about this top 6. Graves, Cale Makar, Samuel Girard, Eric Johnson, Taves, and Ian Cole. That may be the best top 6 in the NHL. Off the top of my head, it's either them or the Blues. It's really, really close. New York Yankees offseason preview comes your way tonight. Stephen Green's interview comes your way tomorrow. He wrote a book about 24 Negro Leaguers that he thinks should be in the Hall of Fame. The interview may go long, but I know it's going to be really, really interesting. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that America has one word that says it all. You never know.